Dave, great to see you. This is our Street Soccer United podcast. I'm in a hotel room, as probably some people can make out that the purple gives it away. So I'm up in the share price on the Premier Inn chain again. I'm a globetrotter at the moment, but Dave, it's brilliant to have you on this show of ours. Dave Plunkett here, MD, founder of the Collaboration Junkie, and many other projects I might add. Several projects, wears many hats, a super individual. It's lovely to have you on the show, mate. If you want to just give a brief introduction to yourself.
Yeah, lovely to be here from my shoffice at the bottom of the garden rather than hotels. Although I was out and about, I was in London earlier on in the week. It's just nice to get out and about again, isn't it? And get travelling and seeing people in the flesh. But thank you, Dave. About to get married to the wonderful Kelly, 2 awesome kids, Luna and Milo, and then Gary the dog. Love my music, love my football, love just enjoying life as much as I possibly can. And now kind of doing work that I really enjoy and hopefully allows others to kind of enjoy what they do a little bit more as well, which I think is, has really come through at the core of what I'm about and what I like to do, really. So, yeah.
Well, 2 things that will stand out straight away from what you just said there is into your football, and I've clocked obviously that picture in the background, so I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. And then obviously being able to do something that you love and enjoy doing. I mean, I'll say, I would hazard a guess that you're in the minority, because I think most people, sadly, to one point, but it's good to have a job anyway in the first place in this day and age. But sadly, often it's a case of they're just having to work to kind of earn a living, and put sort of, food on the table and look after their families. And that's, sadly, I shouldn't really maybe use that word, because that's all power to those individuals. But it would be, I guess it's a slight shame that maybe they're not doing something that fulfills them as much as possible. And it's tough, and I know it's really hard for a lot of people. But generally, if you're in a situation where you're doing a job or running your own ship where you just love getting out of bed every day, I think that's an incredible position to be in. And as I say, I think it is the minority. So all power to you for doing that, mate. But coming back to that football picture, so for our guests and viewers of this show, tell us about that. What is that? Who do you support, and what is going on there? I can see it, obviously, and I know
yeah,
tell me.
I'm sure most of you would do. That is one of the greatest goals scored ever in the Premier League off someone's shin. It's Wayne Rooney's overhead kick in the Man City derby. The picture that I'm most proud of, though, that is just out of shot. I'm gonna risk sending everything haywire now and use my camera to. Oh no, he's broken the camera up. So no, he's gonna need editing. What have I done?
No, it won't need editing. This is great. So guys watching this is Dave's logo for his company, Collaboration Junkie.
Yeah.
This is turning into like a Joe Rogan podcast where it looks like this logo.
Yeah. So what I was trying to show you until I unplugged my camera and everything that's gone haywire is it's a signed picture of Eric Cantona to me, and there's a little picture of me on the insert of when I actually met him. So I met Eric, and now my camera's warming back up again. Bear with me 2 seconds, I will be back. So that's my more prized possession, was meeting Eric Cantona. So clearly a Man United fan, and yeah, cautiously optimistic that things might be kind of back again. That be returning to normal at some point in the future. So there we go.
Well, I mean, we'll start before anything else. We'll wheel you back then. So what we try and do with this podcast is give an insight to some of the people that we support all over the country for our academy program. But naturally, our supporters, our sponsors, our partners, they're going to come across this sort of show as well. And it's just a sort of insight into you, mate. You as an individual, kind of, where you've come from, your groundings, your foundation, kind of what sort of made you as an individual initially, how you've kind of then developed yourself and come into sort of the present, and what you've got planned for the future. So if I take you back then, because you must be in your 70s by now, innit? No? Answer that. Come on. I'll take you back though. So on a serious though, Dave, what are you happy to share, mate? I mean, when you was growing up, like going back to sort of teenage years, what were you like, mate? What was you like as an individual growing up? Were you really sort of studious?
I'm going to go slightly further back because kind of I
Yeah.
was born in 1980. I'll have you know, Keith. Thank you very much. But I was
Hey,
at first. I was studious. My dad was in the my dad was in the Air Force, so travelled around a lot. Went to like I think I counted up to like 11 different schools. But when I first hit secondary school, I went to a big school with lots of forces kids. I was living in Germany at the time, which is why I support Man United, because my dad sat me down and watched Arsenal, and they beat them, and my mates all supported Liverpool. So I was just one of those guys who was like, no, I'm having them. Lee Sharp scored a hat trick. Anyway, as an aside, my first year at school though, I was top boy in the school. I was supposed to be doing 4 A levels a year early, going to Oxford or Cambridge, the full kind of kit and caboodle. And then I moved schools again and went to a middle school because it was too far to travel to the English school. And I kind of learned that I was clever enough to doss about at school and still stay in all the top sets. And that's what I did. So I was intelligent, but I wasn't studious. I came away from school with 3 A level still. I got a BSc and a D. So I was I did all right in maths and physics and biology. I got a job. Didn't want to go to uni because there was nothing I really wanted to do. It's not that I didn't want to. I didn't see the point. When I worked for BT as part of their kind of school leavers thing, which was a great position to have. But yeah, I didn't need the calmest lifestyle. I'd go clubbing most weekends, all that sort of stuff. And actually, despite really stable kind of family life and family background, just as other friends moved away to uni and things like that, just went down a bit of a spiral, to be honest with you, and had kind of probably 3 years of my life looking back at it now that just sit pretty separate, as problems with stuff like with things like drugs, and it was an odd one. It's not. I'm not. You wouldn't class me as the stereotypical person that would go down there. There was no trauma that brought it on. I still had the support of family right up to the point. It was boredom probably more than anything else, and an addictive personality. So yeah, not had plain sailing all the way. Was lucky to have. I say lucky. It was a lot of a certain amount of willpower from my side around what I did with my life, even during those darker days. And had support of family, had the support of the friends I had before that, to call back on, which was an absolute lifesaver. And then started back out on getting out there and doing something with my life, which would have probably been early 20s, I suppose. But yeah, there was a big chunk there from late teens to kind of right at the start of early 20s where it was it was a bit of a write-off, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, mate, and that's generous of you to do that. But like, how, not to dwell on it, but like, how did you pull yourself out of that, like, for want of a better word, rut? You know, like, you know, your mates have gone off, you've had a bit of a disconnect, you've kind of, like you said, your words, you spiraled a little bit. I mean, I appreciate what you said. You had a bit of a support around you in terms of, you know, your setting, as it were, but you yourself have to make that call, don't you? You know, so I mean, how did you do that?
100%, and it's an odd one because I'd sorted myself out and got clean numerous times over the years, but I'd clearly never wanted it myself. And something just clicked. I think the parents were getting to the point where they'd kind of how often can we do this kind of thing, and something just clicked. And I wish I could give something more insightful to your listeners that that helps them along their path. But I think the one thing would be that when you do want it, when you find the thing that makes you want to do it, it's a lot easier than any other times you've done it before. Something clicked, and then it was not the easiest thing I've ever done, but it was a damn sight easier than times previously. So literally something just went, no, enough's enough. Kind of make the change, Dave, and make the change and start living your life again. And that's
Dave,
what happened.
I actually think that's fantastic advice, mate. But you know, it's because the fact is that you've basically said there that it's your absolute, from the core, wanting to change, you know, for the better, you know, and turn things around, and you know, and do it for yourself. And if you can absolutely look yourself in the mirror and say, look, this is about me, for me, not about anyone else. You know, that there might have been some great people around you wanting you to change, but you've got to have it from within. And it will resonate, I'm sure, with a few of the guys on our programs, because of the fact that, wholly respectfully, some of them might be in certain situations when they join the program at the beginning, you know, but you know, mate, as an amazing supporter of ours and the foundation, but so much of it is mindset and that kind of intrinsic value about look how you view yourself and what you actually want out of life, actually, you know, because these are young adults, and like you were a young adult back then, you know, and I think that's where it comes from, that kind of inner core strength to want to change for the better. Because I mean, like you say, the people around you, us at the foundation, the coaches, everyone else, we all want to help people, you know, and you wanted to be helped, you know, and people around you at that time wanted to help you. But, you know, we can only go so far. It's got to be a reciprocal. It's got to be both ways. You know, it can't be just one way. Keith, to you back in the day, Dave, I really want to help you. I care about you. Do this. Try and think about that. You know, if you're not, you know, like you say, clicked in, you know, if you're not locked in with that, there's going to be a constant disconnect, and then you won't. You know, it'll be learning for knowledge rather than execution. You know, and nothing will change. So I really appreciate that advice, mate, because that's actually really, really solid. So, so moving. So when you made that kind of commitment to yourself, and you clicked in and pulled yourself out, I mean, you talked about that BT opportunity. I mean, how did that come about, and then what was the next step for you from that?
Oh, so that had gone, because that was during the same kind of time. So it was an interesting one. I fell into a sales role, essentially, but then very quickly was an area sales manager, managing a team of people who were kind of, well, a bit old, much older and longer in the tooth than me. From there, kind of didn't, move, jumped about a bit, not jumped about a bit. I stuck in roles for kind of 3 or 4 years, just trying to find what I wanted to do, and then
Well, I know you worked in recruitment for a bit, didn't you? Because that was like me.
Yeah, I did. So yeah, I did. So from the area sales role, I then did recruitment for a bit,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed. Lots of people interaction, kind of matching people with the right jobs. Really enjoyed that. A lot of kind of business relationship building. Then the recession of kind of 10 years ago hit, and recruitment got much more about just hard selling on the phone, which just isn't how I do business. I built up really good relationships with the people that I place people in, and um, so moved away from that and started working for the Chamber of Commerce, which, for your listeners who haven't come across things like chambers, it's a business club, essentially, where lots of business owners kind of meet and share value and get benefit from each other and run events. And so
But it's in Swindon, wasn't it?
It wasn't Swindon. And you know what? It was interesting because I spent all day, every day finding other people jobs. I couldn't be bothered to find myself one. So I went to a recruitment agent. It was in the window of a recruitment agent. And I remember feeling really good because I knew the agency. I knew roughly what their fees would be to the chamber. And obviously I knew what my salary was. So I could figure out what the chamber would have had to have paid to get me. And for me, it was like the closest thing I'm ever going to get to a transfer fee. I was like, okay, right. So that'll do. I've had a transfer fee. So, but that's where I really started getting involved in community, because I was helping to run one and running an event and connecting people, and I really enjoyed it. And I think at the heart of what I do is opportunism. I think, look, we've all got a superpower, right? Without want to sound corny, we've all got something we do that just comes naturally to us. But actually, and we don't know it's a superpower a lot of the time. I didn't for years and years until very recently. First recognise it and then be happy going, I'm just good at this stuff. And if your listeners haven't found that yet, that's cool, because you will. And mine is probably opportunism. I can see connections between people. I can see where there's an opportunity to do something more than maybe other people have realised between two people. And working in a business community was great because I see that all the time. I was able to go, oh, you should speak to so and so, and you should speak to so and so, and connecting people up. And I just saw kind of how grateful people were when that happened, and being kind of some of the magic that happened when they did do that, and that was really fulfilling. So I went from running a chamber to running my own membership organisation in partnership with someone else.
that was rewarding but exhausting. And then I started doing the business bit of it more than the actual connectivity, in terms of we started running the technical bits for other people, and that's when I started to fall out of love with business a little bit, actually. And looking back, it's because I wasn't involved in that connectivity anymore. I was involved in a much more transactional business where we just sat behind the scenes. I wasn't delivering value. I was delivering some software and some solutions, and really fell out of love with work, actually. And I would probably say now, if I look back now, personally, I was probably in a darker place then than I was when I had my struggles when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I had when you're in a dark place, typically you've got a purpose. You're waking up and there's something that you need to do that day that overrides everything else. I had the 2 kids, I had wonderful home life. When it's kind of with the work bit, but when you run your own business, your work is everything, right? You can't escape it. And just was a little bit just a little bit meh. And then got back involved with a went and found a community of people to start being involved in one again, which was really really game changing. And again, for the people listening, like, obviously a huge part of what the foundation delivers isn't just the learning. It's going to be being part of a group of like-minded people. And I would urge anyone, whatever you do, don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that, having that kind of that group where you can just get you, and you can share your successes, share your struggles, all that stuff. And I started thinking about what I could do to change. I turned 40. It was that big old 2020. Right, what's the next 10 years of my life going to look like, and all that kind of stuff, and decided to make some changes. So yeah.
Well, there's loads there. I mean, one thing I was going to say though, when you said about the sort of challenging period again, was so, just to clarify, was that when you was at this, because I'm aware of your background, so was it the business scene you're talking about? Was that what you're talking about when it was getting quite tough, or
no? So it was after that. So we
so when it was right when you first, like, your own business sort of thing, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so it was. So so business scene had evolved into something different, where we provided background services to other organisations and did a good job at it. I was making probably better money than I had at any other point running my own business. It just wasn't. I just wasn't loving doing what I was doing. I didn't kind of understand why.
So that point's really interesting, Dave, for me, because so if now understanding that now, so you made the choice to basically go after something where you had a real passion versus knowing you're going to probably earn less money. So it wasn't about the money for you; it was about the purpose and the passion.
Absolutely. Now I would say I made that decision kind of at the. I said over that kind of 2020 kind of leap. It was new decade, which for me means turning 40 as well, because of when my birthday lies. So I made that decision, but the existing business I was always going to let tick on because it had customers in it, and I just wasn't going to focus any effort into really growing it. And then obviously we all know what happened at the start of last year, and actually I lost 75% of revenue from a business that was doing kind of 150k a year, so not big business, but it didn't have much overheads. It was a nicely running business, and I lost 75% of revenue over a 2-month period, which kind of that sharpened the mind into, right, well, I'll go and really put everything into doing this now because I've got to, kind of thing. So yeah, that was quite a hard, that was quite a hit to take. So
You deal with that, mate, because I mean, I was going to come on to only a light touch on the pandemic stuff, because everyone, I think, is getting so tired of it, but it has been such an incredibly damning situation, and a year plus sort of thing. It's been really hard for a lot of people. And very briefly, I mean, we found currently through the foundation's delivery, we've had more challenging situations to handle in the last 3 months in terms of our recent delivery versus the last 5 years. and that's no exaggeration. And I think just because people's anxiety levels and everything else have been so heightened with what they've had to go through and deal with, and their outlook on life has been damaged, I think, for want of a better word. So with what you've just described there, that's incredibly hard hitting, mate. You know, like you mentioned, you've got a family to support, you know, 75% massive, you know, and within such a short period of time. I mean, how on earth did you have the resilience to kind of deal with that, mate?
So I suppose I'm not. Yeah, I suppose hearing you say that, yeah, makes you stop and think about it a little bit more. At the time, I just got on with it. I'd already made the decision that I was going to be doing something else. So I suppose that. So I suppose from that sense, it made it slightly easier.
Yeah.
I probably dealt with it. I dealt with it, and this came to light kind of. I dealt with it mentally very well. Structurally, business wise, I probably could have done some things better in terms of what I was, the way I focused doing some of what I did. I should have absolutely focused on sales a little bit more to get me out of a bit more of a hole quicker than I did. But I mean, that's the thing in business. We're always learning, right? No matter how long we go through it, we're always learning. But I think it did help that I was already on a journey of looking to do something different. So
Yeah.
I just cracked on with it. Resilience wise, yeah, I've been through enough stuff. I've been through enough stuff in my life and got through it that you build up resilience. The stuff, if you've got listeners that are going through stuff now, and maybe it's the second or third time they've gone through stuff, there will come a point where you're able to reflect on all of it and recognize how much of a stronger person it's made you. I'm not saying they're going to be there now, because I certainly wasn't. It took me a while to go, you know what, actually, and often it comes from external people. So if someone else goes, wow, look at what you've done. When people say that to you, don't get shy about it. Don't go, oh no, they don't know what they're talking about it. Accept it for what it is. It's a compliment to you, and it shows how far you've come, and it shows how strong you are. And one of my biggest flaws was, for years, people would either say about resilience, or they'd say, oh, your energy's really inspiring, Dave. You should get out and do more of this stuff. I used to shrug it off because I didn't like accepting the compliment. And now I like, you know what, I'm doing all right. And when you're able to reflect on what you've been through, that's when it really gives you gives you it not necessarily gives you the strength to do it. It's just there. As soon as you realize what you've done and how strong you are, you don't need to call up on it again. It's just there in you, and you deal with similar even if the situation's very different, but you just deal with hard situations better because you're hardwired to know that, well, it's just a thing. It's just a thing.
Is that how you think, mate, have kind of built your mental strength over the years through this kind of experience you're talking about? Because you mentioned a minute ago that, you know, mentally you were really on it and were able to deal with the situation, maybe not so much in terms of framework within the business sort of thing, but mentally you were there.
Yeah, but I think I did it unconsciously.
Right.
I did it. It wasn't me going, right, I didn't sit down, right, you've done this before, Dave. I just kind of, thinking back now, I just got on with stuff and was enjoying what I was doing, which helped. I had a lovely family around me, kind of kids were grown. So I think a year ago, Luna would have been 6, Milo would have been 4. The weather was nice, wasn't it? All that. So I mean, it sounds glib and throwaway when you've lost that amount of money out of your business. But when I was already doing something else and I was enjoying life in general, and I was still lucky for what I had. I live out in the Wiltshire countryside. I had a garden and the kind of countryside on my doorstep, and I had some revenue coming in, and my other half's a nurse. So if it ever really, she could do up to hours if it really came to that kind of thing. And so I was grateful for what I had. There's going to be people listening to this who were in a much harder state than I was. And while that doesn't mean that my struggles weren't real, I'm still at least able to put them into context as where other people are and go, well, yeah.
But again, though, you've offered up there something that's really valuable in the sense of there is I'm very confident there is always for everyone out there something for them to be grateful for. You know, whether it's even just, if it's a parent, a loved one, a friend, a circumstance, a product, a materialistic thing, whatever it is, something, at least one thing they can be grateful for, even if it's an experience.
Even your own mindset, Keith. Even if
Yeah.
you're grateful because you've decided you're you're taking a different path, that's something to be grateful for.
Exactly, mate, exactly. And once you've got that kind of gratitude foundation at the heart in terms of thinking like that, I'm grateful for, like you say, my mindset, whatever it might be, that can give you that channeled energy on a positive to then charge a bit of, you know, next steps in terms of what you want to do to change your circumstances. And I think being mentally headstrong like that, I mean, it's interesting because in the week this week, you know, I was having a conversation with someone and we was talking about, you know, mental health and physical health, you know, and it's always been there, but just everyone now seems to be talking about mental health, but it's not just suddenly appeared. And it's not like suddenly, oh God, there's mental health issues. I mean, there's been mental health. It's been forever. We've always got something going on up here and something physically going on. But it's just everyone now is talking about it, and which is, I guess, a good thing. But that you know, being understanding of, am I happy in my own body? Am I great? If I'm overweight, well, let's do something about it. You know, or if I'm thinking negative thoughts, well, why am I doing that? And how is it, you know, affecting my livelihood? You know, so if you want to change, you've got to have a bit of a reset, but be willing and wanting to do it for yourself, like we talked about earlier on, which is this is sage advice, mate, coming through this interview, and it's brilliant, and I think it's going to be really, really helpful. So, but I want to ask you again, though, also, what I know the passion and purpose was part of it, but making that leap from leaving employment to running your own business, that's a hell of a leap, Dave. And I know you've kind of, I mean, really politely, you just like in a sentence, just went over that and you just did it and got on with it anyway. But again, I know there's a few people actually, and all power to them, on our programs that do actually want to start their own business, but they're really nervous, really anxious about it, worried, concerned,
Okay. Good
stuff. Over to you.
Good. I'm glad they're nervous because it isn't easy. So they should be nervous. Of course, anyone who says that, I get really annoyed with those. Everyone's got a book in them, or everyone's got a business in them. No, they haven't. And that's irresponsible. So you should be nervous, but nervous is only a step away from excitement, right? And it is exciting, and it's amazing, and it's rewarding, but it is hard work. It's a funny one. I never classed myself as an entrepreneur, really, and that's because I fell into being a business owner. I went from working for the chamber to working for someone who ran a membership organisation, and I knew that then morphed, and I got some shares in it. And then when the business changed again, we were 50-50 in that business, and then this one I've started on my own. So I did kind of, and now I'm just unemployable. I think I'm yeah. So I kind of fell into it. I didn't set out to be a business owner at the start. However, that's why the business I'm doing now is so liberating, because it is just me, and it's the first time I'm building a business completely of my own design in the way that I want to do it. So I can put as well as doing something that I love, I can put some extra purpose behind it. Like, it's not just about making money; it's about being able to put things back, good things out into the world, because I am lucky to be doing something that I love and make all right money from it. I can kind of then make sure that does go back out, whether that's locally or on a more global scale with the planet and things like that. And I think that that purpose piece, coming back to what you said before about not everyone's able to do something they love, but the good thing I think is more and more businesses, though, even if it's the business you work for isn't your passion, there's more and more businesses now that are set up in a way to do good things, even if that's on the side of what their core business is, which ties in with that mental well-being and purpose. And I think kind of that it's great to see how much that's coming out to the fore, and I kind of want to be a part of that. So no, yeah, I fell into it and then have kind of morphed along and done what I do. But I suppose looking back, I always treated my jobs in that way as well. But for people that are out there, that are listening, that are wanting to do it, be realistic that it isn't, that it potentially will be long hours for not as much pay, but you'll have the ability to shape how you do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I know when we were struggling running one of the businesses, but kind of when I did it with someone else, what it wasn't getting as much money in, but what I did do was see both my kids grow up. I remember when I was working and I'd meet people from when I was working in membership, and they'd have been doing very well, but they missed their kids growing up because they were working so hard and away. And I made the kind of thing then that is never going to be me. That's just not what I'm going to do. And so I took every Wednesday morning off to take my kid to baby swimming classes, that type of thing. Like it will be hard, and you might not make as much money as quickly as you would want to, but make sure you take the kind of the joyous bits of being able to have the flexibility to live your life the way you want to do, and do something that you want to do. And and you can't put a price on that. They all say, don't they, when people on the deathbed, the thing that they look back on it isn't, I wish I'd made more money, it's I wish I spent more time with my family. And so you can't put a price on being able to have that flexibility to lead the life that you want, even if that means staying up to God knows what hour of the morning some mornings because there's work you've got to get done. If that means you can do that thing that you really want to do, well then, for me, that's, you can't put a price on that. So
I totally agree with that. I mean, on a personal level, I'm really similar to you, mate, in that regard. I mean, back in the day, so as you know, and I shared earlier, like I was in recruitment. You know, when I came out of football, I sort of fell into recruitment and just I mean, I loved it like you. I mean, I absolutely loved it, but I was absolutely burning it, like working all hours, like day and night, you know, during the day working, during the night schmoozing, you know, just winning clients in the evening by just being out, you know, and networking, basically going into pubs and bars and then just talking a good game about how we are the best agency in the world and like the biggest and best, but literally there's three of us. I mean, it's brilliant. And they've just kept building it out like that. But you get to a point where you're just saying no to so many things, i.e. your mates, going out, you know, socializing, meeting up with people, family, friends, loved ones. It was all kind of no priorities were just all over the place. You know, it was basically work at the top, and that was all what mattered. And yes, you know, earning good money and this, that, and the other, but it's you know, what does it mean? So what kind of thing? You know, if you've got all this money, what are you going to do with it? And now, you know, there's a few people around me on a personal that, you know, they've done well, but they are a little bit regretful, you know, because of where they're at now and what they've got versus others that maybe have not had such a trajectory money wise. But you know, what does it mean? I mean, you can always earn more money, you can't earn more time, you know. So it's one of them, mate, isn't it? It's where you invest your time. I think is really important, even at a sort of young adult age, you know, sort of, you know, you're 18 to 25 typical in terms of who we support. You've got your whole life ahead of you, hopefully. But it's those life decisions that can really kind of have your future self thank you today, as it were.
Oh, and especially at that stage of life, and I look back now, there's the kind of compound thing. If you start making small decisions now instead of in a month's time or 2 months' time, the small decisions you make now will just build and build and build and build to have a huge impact later on, and maybe give you the breathing space to be able to kind of be a bit more flexible when you need to be and you want to be. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So you're like this collaboration junkie like business of yours. I mean, that it's driven by having a passion for partnerships, isn't it? I mean, can you explain to the guys that, you know, will listen to this and watch this exactly what it offers for businesses and individuals and how it works and operates and helps people?
Yeah, so what I do is I help businesses set up partnerships with other brands, other businesses, to help get them leads into their business, potential new customers into their business, because that's what I've got lots of experience of doing throughout my various businesses. There's not many people out there that do that. So I help people with kind of who they should look to partner with, but then the real kind of systems and processes and marketing materials, all the stuff they actually need to do to help make those partnerships work. I passionately believe in it. It's a great way to work. It's a fun way to work. It's a successful way to work. And my kind of purpose in life is to enjoy my life and help others enjoy their life. That overrides everything that I do. And for me, if businesses get their partnership strategy right, their business becomes easier. And if your business is easier, you enjoy it more. And if you enjoy your business, you enjoy your life more. So that's my kind of way of why I do what I do. And I work kind of like as a consultant. So I either go in and work one-to-one with someone, and I take them through a kind of whole methodology or framework that I've come up with based on my own experiences, as much based on the mistakes I've either made or witnessed than the successes I've had. And that kind of comes, I suppose there's a bit of running theme there throughout that actually sometimes the struggles you have are the things that really allow you to excel in the future. And so I do that one-to-one with people, or I do it in a group setting as well, actually. So people come together and they're learning, much as you're doing at the foundation, I suppose. People are coming together to learn in a group environment, but about how they can implement partnerships in their business. And then the idea is that I know that as I evolve through what I'm doing, I'll be doing more around the power of partnerships for good and enjoying things in life and everything else as well. So I've got where I want to go, and it is much more around some of the stuff that we've shared around today, actually, and the power of connection and collaboration in us being who we want to be and making sure we're enjoying our life. It was only a couple of years ago that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. So I actually look back at last year when the COVID. I know it was a horrendous year. I wouldn't have wished COVID, but I actually look back at it as a really positive year because it's a year that will shape the rest of my life in terms of the decisions I made and where I'm going on a personal level. So that's.
And on that, touching on that, so sort of future plans, Dave. So exactly that. So what you just described there is that's where your trajectory is, where you want to sort of drive it going forward.
Yeah, doing more of what I'm doing now because it adds huge value, and I'm getting amazing feedback from people, which is what you want. But I think I think in the future it will be a little bit more. There'll be some content around the broader worth and value of collaboration and partnership, and maybe share a bit more about my story and all that sort of stuff. So.
Absolutely brilliant. So last question then, in terms of those that come across this. I mean, what sort of advice would you give your younger self? So back now with where you're at and where you're going and what you've learned, and I know that's a heavy question because of what you've talked about, but if you could pick, if you could knock on the door of a Dave Plunkett at 18, what sort of advice would you give that Dave to give him the best opportunities in life going forward?
Be more honest with yourself and others. So just being really, really honest with yourself, not about where you're at, not where you think you're at, not where you want to be at, but like where are you at right now, and realistically knowing yourself, where could that lead you, and is that somewhere you want to lead, you want to be led or not? And if it's not, be honest with yourself, and then see if you can be honest with someone else to help steer you in a different direction.
Absolutely brilliant. Love that, Dave. Honestly, thank you so much, mate. I could talk all day. You know that. I mean, with you and hear you and listen, and we'd love you to get together. I mean, we haven't even met in person. Our mental is crazy. We've got to do that through this weirdness of how we've all been living through a screen for the last year or so. But we'll definitely get together as soon as we can, mate. It'd be lovely to meet up in person. But just want to say a massive thank you to you personally for one, your time today, and two, your incredibly valued support of the Street Soccer Foundation, and three, your very kind and generous insight into you as an individual. And I hope those that are watching this and hearing it, whether it's live later, or sort of in due course, they come across it and we share it with people. They've got some good value from it, and it helps a lot of people, and I'm sure it will do. So again, thank you. It's been Dave Plunkett, Collaboration Junkie, fantastic supporter of Street Soccer. This has been the Street Soccer United podcast with me, Keith Mabbutt. Look forward to the next one as well. But in the meantime, Dave, again, thanks for your time.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Cheers, Keith.